to come to this diversity session. Welcome to the diversity workshop for the Royal Television Society Midlands Television Conference 2016. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Barnie Choudhury, and I'm the Honorary Secretary of the Royal Television Midlands. I always forget that bit. I just want you to know that this session is being recorded for posterity. It'll go up on the Royal Television Society's web pages and also on their channel as well. Before I start, I just want to play a little game with you if I can. Okay? Romeo and Juliet are found on the floor, dead. There's water and glass. They did not drown. There is no blood anywhere, but they are dead. How did they die?
I don't think we should answer this. We've heard it before.
I've answered this one before. Romeo and Juliet fish.
Oh, I hate you. Go out. Go. Take it off. They are goldfish. De Bono's lateral thinking. That's my starting point when I think about diversity. How do we start to think about things differently? So that's my starting point. Look, can I thank you all for coming, and can I also thank Jane Green, who's our events manager, for organising this event. Also, I guess people who are cleverer than I am will say that she's picked a really diverse location, being the West Midlands Safari Park. Diversity of animals, maybe. Now, just a couple of things before we start. As I said, we are being filmed. And I would encourage you, please, to tweet, to Facebook. You've just had a fantastic session on digital stuff. If you want to use your smartphones, get them out, record it, send them to the BBC. I don't mind. I genuinely don't mind. Okay? And what I'm hoping for today is that it's going to be a positive, open, honest dialogue. We've had a fantastic session previously, no holds barred discussion, but we didn't look backwards too much. We looked forwards. Tommy and I have been to so many of these types of workshops and conferences that we could write a book on it. In fact, that's not a bad idea, Tommy. And I want to just take the conversation forward a little bit. 35 years after joining the creative industries as a broadcaster, gone are the days when I'd walk into a newsroom and the whole place would just stop. And there'd be this tumbleweed moment where people realised that I wasn't of their colour. It's changed, and I'm really glad about that. And anyone who has any sense will accept that diversity is a good thing. Diversity in all forms, whether it be gender, sexual orientation, religion, whether it be age, whether it be disability, and whether it be social class, which I think is the biggest hurdle that we face today. But here's a question, a provocative question. The BBC's been in existence for 100 years, ITV for about 60, Sky for about 30, and I'm thinking to myself, we haven't had a black, Asian, minority channel controller, and to my knowledge, we haven't had a disabled one either. And I'm just wondering when we're going to get that, please. And so the questions for me are we focusing too much on recruitment and retention rather than promotion? Why does diversity have such a bad reputation? Are we too po-faced? Are we too politically correct? And to help us, I'm joined by a panel of experts. Fina Uche is an actress, and I'll come on to her in a second. Tommy Nagra, and also Joe Godwin. Now, many of you will recognise Fina as Liberty Baker in ITV's Footballers' Wives. And for that role, Fina won a Screen Nations Award for Favourite TV Star, but she's more multifaceted than that. Fina is a TV presenter, a former radio presenter, a former newspaper columnist, and she's just completed a master's degree, and from that, she has created a one-woman show. Just tell me a little bit about that, would you, Fina?
Hi, thank you for having me here, Barney. Hello. I'm doing a one-woman show currently called Identity Crisis. I am playing 9 characters, black, white, old, young, man, woman. It's very exciting for me because it's something that I would rarely get the opportunity to do. I've actually cast myself in places that I wouldn't normally be found. It came from the master's degree. I had a modelling career and I was the central figure in images that other people had created. So I playfully deconstruct what other people have taken the image of an African-looking woman to me. And then I also look at just where we are in life with the black narrative. some of which I do not agree with. All of the characters are having their own identity crisis, and I think as a country we're also having an identity crisis. It's very topical, and it'll be in Edinburgh at the end of August.
You better put the dates.
21st to the 28th.
And our tickets still available.
Yes, Spotlights Theatre. What a plug! Aren't I meant to be doing another job?
Okay, fine. Okay, I'll let you have it there. So, thank you very much. Tommy Nagger is currently head of television for the BBC's Religion and Ethics Department, which is based at Media City in Salford. He oversees teams making a range of programmes from documentaries, features, worship to live outside broadcasts and events for all BBC channels of all faiths. And Tommy was the BBC's head of the pioneering Asian Programmes unit, and he's also worked in the independent sector with Maverick Television. And he's also responsible for finding some brilliant talent. We've all heard of Sanjeev Busker, Rajesh Merchandani, Anita Rani, and of course, Citizen Khan himself, Adil Ray. This man founded it. So Tommy, my first question to you has to be, what's it like to be one of the very few black, Asian, minority ethnic senior leaders in the industry?
Well, there's certainly more of us now than there was when I first started 20 odd years ago. When I started, it was very much, when I started off in local radio, I worked in daytime programmes, and then really my career really took off when I joined what was then the Multicultural Programmes Department based at Pebble Mill in Birmingham. I came in on a 6-month contract. I ended up staying there for about 10 years, ended up heading what was then the Asian Programmes unit, left the BBC, worked in the indie sector, came back, and the industry has exponentially changed. There's more people like me, and I'm not just talking about colour, I'm talking about class, working class kids like me. I never saw people like me doing jobs that I'd want to do. I always wanted to be a journalist, a newspaper journalist. Television was just a kind of pipe dream, really, so I kind of fell into it. And as I've risen up that greasy pole, I am seeing there's less people like me, but I'm seeing more rising and coming through the ranks.
Thanks, Tommy. Joe Godwin is the director of the BBC Academy and the BBC in the Midlands. His role is to develop key partnerships in the region. But he's on this panel today because he's the chair of the BBC's Diversity Steering Group for the Director General. He's also the DG's representative on the Creative Diversity Network. People who may not know that, but the CDN, as it's called, is where the industry meets to really talk about how to be more creative diversity-wise in terms of the whole industry, not just one organisation. And he's worked on the BBC's recent diversity strategy. Joe, welcome. So a really easy question for you today, dead easy. Not just the BBC, but the entire industry is castigated, saying that we're not diverse enough. We don't do enough for diversity. How much is that myth? How much is that reality? Is the industry right to be criticised?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's worth saying there's lots of broadcasters in Britain, and it's a shame that only one of them's on the panel. But I think, we have a lot more to do, not just the BBC, but the whole sector. The BBC has a particular obligation, being called the British Broadcasting Corporation, to reflect the communities, the voices, the nations, the regions of the United Kingdom. That's what we're for, and I think we lead the field in terms of broadcasting, both in portrayal and workforce when it comes to diversity, but we need to do more. It needs to be faster, because every time we do more around diversity, Britain has changed again, and we've got to keep up with that. So, I think we're doing lots of stuff. I think the BBC is an exemplar in the field, but there's much more to do.
Please show your appreciation for a panel, please. So, this is the way it's going to work. I'm going to just ask a couple of questions of the panel, and then it's over to you. And don't think you're going to get away just by asking questions, because I've got a little task for you guys to do towards the end of this 45-minute session. Okay, so my first question to whomever it is. We have an Asian Mayor of London, bless you. We have an Asian Mayor of London. We have had a black Chief Constable. We have a business secretary who's Asian. And there are people in other industries who are making it to the top. When are we going to see an Asian or a black or a disabled channel controller in a mainstream organisation? Fina?
I think we're looking at the wrong things. I think we need to have a heart change about diversity within the individual. Of course, we need to, as black practitioners, we need to set up our own businesses, we need to write our own scripts, we need to blaze a trail. And then I would say to white business owners or practitioners in the BBC, ITV, wherever, there needs to be a heart change. It's about the narrative being diverse, so that if we're talking about drama, for example, we need to have a drama that is not a narrow narrative that only goes to one particular type of person. So the DNA changes, but the parts just become broad. That's what I'd say. I don't know when we'll have a black, Asian, minority, ethnic control, and I'm not sure that that's the sole issue.
Okay.
I think it would be very good if we did, because I think it's... No, but I'm just going to... I think it's really... It's the symbol of it is important. The symbolism of it is important. You know, it won't change. It depends who they are. I think it doesn't necessarily matter what colour their skin is or what their sexuality is. It's what their outlook and their background and what they bring to the diversity of thought and experience of the organisation. But in addition to that, the power of role models to say to people, we say we're an equal opportunities employer, we say everybody's welcome here, but when I look through the window it doesn't look like you mean it. I think that's why powerful role models are very important. We just appointed our first female Deputy Director General yesterday. We haven't had a woman as Director General yet, so other diverse characteristics are some way behind it. But I think the point Tommy made about how there are many more people from, and I don't just mean black and minority ethnic backgrounds, but whether it's from regional diverse backgrounds, sexuality, gender, I think that is increasingly visible at all levels of broadcasters. So I think it will happen, I hope it will happen. And I'd just like to clarify, I'm not white, I'm pink.
Sorry.
I think it's a question you could have asked 20 years ago around women. You know, we didn't have any women controllers, and I think that clearly has happened. Yesterday, as Joe says, first Director General, Deputy Director General, sorry. So I think we are.
Made it so.
We are. We're on a journey. I think what we need to see is a critical mass of talent, not just from BME communities, kind of rising, and people running companies, working in the independent sector. You're not going to see a controller because they are black or brown or gay or lesbian or working class. You're going to see a controller who has built a track record of work which enables them to then do the job. And I think we're on that journey. There are several people at my level and above who are, you know, and there are people who are running, you know, Angela Jane, E4, people who have run channels, there are senior people. I think what we need to do is actually shine more of a spotlight, make more of the fact that they're there. You know, they should be ambassadors, they should be role models, we should be celebrating the fact that they're there, and shifting the conversation around diversity, which, you know, crikey, you know, you said earlier, I've done lots of these kinds of sessions. Diversity is such a drag, talking about it. I'm so bored of it, and it's always as an issue. I think when we've changed the conversation about diversity being something which is just happens, but also happens because our audiences are changing, and the BBC as a broadcaster has to reflect that. And I think when we've changed the conversation about diversity being not about, oh, we should have more people from minorities because it's a nice thing to do, and shift that to, actually, we need these voices and this talent, because actually that's the audience who we're making programmes and services for.
And in terms of the differences that different people are making, Joe, I'm going to ask you to talk about the BBC, of course, but also about on the Creative Diversity Network, which you'll remember. What positives are we seeing? What are we seeing that's absolutely different now than, say, that we didn't see 20 years ago?
I think it has parallels with the challenges around broadcasting and production sector in the Midlands, in that it's about putting it at the heart of the conversation and not letting anyone stop talking about it. I think that relentless discussion of it is a really powerful thing. CDN is about to do something which I think is groundbreaking. So the Creative Diversity Network is all the major broadcasters and BAFTA and other organisations, and PACT and Creative Skill Set. And later this year, a huge initiative is about to be launched that all the broadcasters have done together, which is called Project Diamond, which is for the first time real empirical data about on and off-screen diversity. Now that's not going to change on and off-screen diversity, but it's going to for the first time tell us how well or how badly we're doing. And that's a real example of, I've never seen collaboration like it from all the broadcasters. It's not competitive, they're doing it together, they're going to share data, they're going to publish data. And we'll really then be able to have a proper conversation based on facts.
Thank you very much. Let's open it up to you guys. Who wants to ask the first question? Don't be shy, come forward. Yeah. Identify yourself, tell us who you are and give us a question.
Cully Kaler, I'm an executive producer at the BBC Academy, and I used to be...
And don't be worried that Joe's your boss. I don't want to put any pressure on you.
Or
don't
the
be
threat I made you earlier.
Yes, sir.
Asking difficult questions.
So please ask a really difficult question for me.
Well, I was going to ask you about opportunities in terms of, I know Joe looks after the sort of kicker fund in the Midlands, and there's a North Kicker Fund basically in terms of helping the BBC think about those regions and get out there basically, and that's like a little carrot as opposed to the stick. So here's a central fund, and in order for you to utilise it, you come to the North, you come to the Midlands. And it's been, I think, worked quite well with both areas. Is there a virtue of having a diversity central fund to help a broadcaster to connect a little bit more?
Lenny Henry has called for, Sir Lenny Henry has called for ring-fence money for diversity. Joe?
And there is. BBC Television's got a pot of over £2 million, which is ring-fence for the development of ideas that bring increased diversity to BBC Television's programmes. Now, if not enough people know about that, then we need to work harder to tell people about it. But Charlotte Moore, who is in charge of all the BBC's TV channels, has got £2.1 million this year, which is specifically set aside, not for commissioning and paying for the programmes, but for the development, whether it's scripts, talent, ideas, whatever, just exactly to do that. So I think that's something that Tony Hall's brought in the past 2 years.
What I have experienced talking to people in my region, Liverpool and maybe Birmingham, whatever, is there is a disconnect between these funds, the production companies, and the people who want to tell the stories getting access. I'm wondering how we can kind of plug into that.
Explain a bit more.
The disconnect is that there could be a black production company. There seems to be a sort of a group of people that are more often hired or commissioned to do these projects and get these fundings. And there's other companies, black or otherwise, that are maybe lower down the list that just can't seem to get in to be commissioned or get in to get the money. There's a disconnect, I think. I think we need to work on that.
Tommy?
Yeah, I know the fund that Joe mentioned, I haven't got all the details, but I know that they have funded several new start-up black Asian-led production companies in terms of developing their scripts and talent. We've yet to see them on screen, but I know that some of that is planned. But I think you can sometimes kind of just focus on those funds, but actually it's the responsibility of all commissioners to be thinking about diverse storytelling. And I think aligned to that is this kind of push to have employ people, not just because they're diverse, but have a diversity of thought and have, just think differently. And a lot of that comes from background, whether you're working class, whether you're an ethnic minority, whether you're gay, lesbian, all of these things, you see the world differently. And the broader that we can spread that amongst our commissioning, and that is being done through several initiatives which have been launched in the last year and a half or so, I think you will then start seeing a real change in terms of, you're already seeing it, but you'll see more of those kinds of ideas on screen, television, radio and online.
So a follow-up question from me on that one is this, is that you've got this money, creative industries, okay, BBC has put £2 million in. What does success look like? Joe, what does success look like using that money?
I think success will look really simple, and if you want to read what the BBC thinks success will look like, it's on the BBC's website, which is a 5-year diversity strategy that we launched earlier this year. It'll basically be that on air and in our workforce will look like Britain. Simple as that in one way, in that the people making commissioning, the people doing the senior management jobs, the people doing the production jobs, the people doing the clerical jobs, but also the people presenting programmes, acting in programmes, featuring programmes, that mix, and we're not talking just about ethnicity, that mix, whether it's where in the UK you're from, what sort of background you're from, what sort of opinions you've got, is that mix looks like Britain. Now that's really hard, as we know Britain isn't the homogenous consensus place it used to be. So that's quite a challenging dynamic thing, but for me that's what success would look like.
Fina, what would it be for you as an actress, as a writer?
Actually, it would just be more reflective of the percentages of the population. Because at the moment, you don't see the percentage of black and Asian ethnic minority on any of the programs. The percentages are way off. I'd also like a diversity in the scripting, the narratives that are told. When I do see black British stories, they are normally the underclass narrative, and I don't personally identify with that. So I would like just a plethora of product. And also, I would like to play negative characters. Now, most people will go, because I feel I'm not allowed to play a negative character as a black actress, because there are so few examples of black British female talent constantly that people put a lot of pressure on you to be positive all the time. Success for me would look like my play, in that I get to play whatever I want. Broadly, good characters, bad characters, because there'll be so much representation out there that if I want to play a negative character, I can, because there's someone else playing a positive one.
Tommy?
Distinctiveness, it's a word that was kind of, if any of you followed the kind of the white paper, it was the word that kind of sprung out as something that's going to be a priority for the BBC, certainly, and over the next charter period. Diversity is also enshrined in the charter. That's a first. We will be held to account, and we've got to deliver it. So for me, seeing that distinctiveness played out across our output is going to be the key, and that's what, and like Joe says, this isn't, the onus shouldn't just be on the BBC. I think this is an industry-wide issue, and I think, other broadcasters have got their own initiatives, but I think the difference for me this time round is, we will be held to account, because, we're accountable to our licence fee payers, and I think, and I could point to lots of output. I mean, the thing with the BBC is there is so much output out there across all of our networks. It's just really hard to find. And I think, things like new technologies enabling that to happen. The iPlayer, incredible, a world-beating service. I think you're going to see more personalisation of content, because we all like different things, so you can find what you want. And I think that will really shift the dial on distinctiveness and the range of output that we make.
Thank you. Finn, you want to say something more?
I just wanted to thank these two guys coming from the BBC, and I wondered where the other broadcasters were. I really think under the table, because it feels like it's getting skewed towards the BBC, but the diversity issue is right across the board.
Okay, Joe?
And in a way, it should be slightly more skewed to the BBC, because I think the BBC has a greater responsibility as a publicly funded, and we've always prided ourselves in being leaders.
Thank you. I spotted in the audience Des Tong from Big Centre TV. Could you stand up a minute, Des? So, local television station.
Yeah.
Okay. How diverse are you?
I was just thinking about that. We've got 4 people who do our news broadcasts. 3 girls and Bob Hall. 2 of the other girls are Asian. They were chosen for their talent. We've got an autistic guy who works in our office. He's a genius at archiving. We've got a gay guy who's one of our designers. He's fantastic at coming up with programme idents. We never think about it. We just want people to work for us. I'm a musician. I worked for many, many years with the real thing. The Chants from Liverpool. I grew up working with black musicians. It's never made a difference to me.
So when you recruited, you didn't set out to hire black, Asian, minority, ethnic, disabled people or anything like that. You never thought.
I mean, obviously, you know, the BBC has obviously guidelines. We're not governed by those sort of guidelines. We looked for talent. Now it so happened that two of the girls, who are absolutely fantastic,
just happened to be Asian.
Just happened to be Asian.
And when you move away from something like this and you hear diversity being spoken, does it fill you with dread? Do you think, God, political correctness gone mad?
Well, as I said, as a musician, over the years, and you know, I'm going back a long, long time, I've sort of grown up with that and had to deal with it. So, no, I think it's a good move. And you know what the guys on the panel were saying before, it is about time. It would be very interesting. I mean, the BBC have one of their correspondents who's in a wheelchair. He's the security guy, isn't he? Fantastic, fantastic guy. It shouldn't make any difference. It's never made any difference to me.
Thank you very much. Round of applause, please. Before we go to any other questions in the audience, do you have one?
I was just going to say...
Let me bring the microphone to you. Would you identify yourself, please?
Hi.
You're the person that I've dismissed from the room.
Yeah, I shouldn't be here.
You shouldn't be here.
You might want to distance me after this
okay,
as well. Just first I want to say that I have a lot of respect for Big Sense TV and what you do, Des. The only thing that I would say is when we watched your show reel earlier, something that jumped out to me was actually the lack of women in it.
Yeah, it's out of date.
Right. And again, it's just little things like that, and I know this might seem very small, but it's really important that women are women and we're not girls, and I think that makes a big difference as well. And that, I'm not pulling you up on that, I'm just saying that actually diversity is really broad, and you know, it's great to hear that you've got such a plethora in your organisation, but it'd be great to see that on the screen this morning, so we can start to understand actually this in a bit of a broader picture and what it really does.
So what is it that you do?
I'm a filmmaker.
Okay, so when you go out shooting and making films and pitching your ideas, how difficult is it to get your ideas accepted, and how diverse are they?
I'm quite fortuitous in the way that I work, in that I get commissioned, I work across broadcast, educational and commercial and film, so a lot of stuff comes from different funding and pitching ideas. The thing that I would say, again, sort of thinking about what's out there, and something that Fiona you said, was around, I'm a gay woman, and what I see on TV I don't believe represents my lifestyle, so I really struggle to hone in, and I see that stories out there I actually don't think are reflective. So when you go and pitch ideas, people go, well, that wouldn't happen. And I'm like, well, it kind of did last week. You know, and I think, and I think that's the sort of thing that I really pick up on, is that the life that I lead and lots of the friends that I have is not portrayed on screen because it's knocked down from people who don't necessarily understand it.
Okay, so my question to the panel is, how can we get people's experiences onto television, onto radio?
I think personally, it's quite the answer's quite simple. How you get there's a bit harder. The people who make the choices about what we see and hear have to be diverse. That doesn't mean they all have to be like me or all like you, because that's not diverse. All like you, definitely not all like you. But I think it's about genuine diversity, because and I think it's important that the BBC employs 16,000 people. It's important that they reflect the UK. It's important that the actors and the presenters reflect the UK. But the key is the people making the commissioning choices.
Tommy?
I think Joe's answered it. You know, it goes back to something I meant. You know, this diversity of thought being stitched into the commissioning process, so that people making those decisions, you know, there's a range of different thought and opinion around that table. Until that happens, then, you know, when that happens, then that's when you'll see a broader plethora of output that reflects, you know, the modern Britain that we live in.
Can I be controversial for a moment? You picked up Des on his language. Why is that important? Why is that important? You know, tell me why it's important. I
will reiterate as well, you know, a lot of respect for Des's work, and I'm not pulling up, but it's, you know, I don't go around calling men boys. I don't go and meet with the boys. You know, it's kind of, we're women, and even that use of language, if you start to go men and women, men and girls.
But isn't this what gives diversity a bad name, picking up on the small things?
No, because if you don't, if we can't even get the small things right, how are we going to get the big things right? And that's...
The language is really, really important.
Just to identify yourself.
Sorry, I'm also a filmmaker. My name's Hayley, because there's a value judgment in there, and that's an unspoken thing, and actually we need to correct that at every part so that we can actually start operating on an equal level, because until we do that, we're just not there.
I think where we're at the moment as well, when you think about gender and women, people go, oh, there's a woman in that post now, brilliant. But if you look at stats, we are still a really tiny percentage. And people go, oh, it's changing. It is changing and we're on the right journey, but we've still got a very long way to go. And I think at this point, we should still be challenging. And in fact, we should challenge many things, because I wouldn't want to see it balanced the other way either. I don't want to see 70% of women and 30% of men, because that wouldn't work either. It is actually about moving forward for that more equilibrium.
Thank you very much. I have a question, and it's this, and it's just staying on this diversity stuff. ITV a few years ago was really criticised for Midsummer Murder not having a black or Aryan face, and every time I now switch on, there are so many in those villages. Have we gone too much the other way, Fiona?
Whether it's comical or not, I would prefer it to go the other way. That's obviously, I'm a black woman, I'm a black actor, and I fall on every wrong side of every diversity. I'm over 40, I'm black, I'm Scouse, female. I prefer it that way, even if it's comedic a little bit. I think that my mother, when she came to Liverpool in the late 50s, early 60s, there wasn't a lot of black women, so someone might have said to make a programme at that time about a black woman in Liverpool would have been ridiculous. You don't know where people settle. And I think we make so many more creative allowances for every single film they make about Shakespeare, for them to have a certain accent, or every, you know what I mean? We give artistic license where it suits us. So why not let the artistic license go to, for once, the balance being swung the wrong way on the black, Asian, ethnic minority issue. And I'll have to say to these two women, I ain't got no problem in the world being called a girl. I just want you to know I ain't got I got bigger fish to fry, personally. I don't care if he calls me a girl, because over 40, if I can still get the moniker girl, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy.
I don't like being called a girl. And it does happen. I think Midsummer Murders is really interesting. There are better programmes, better written about murders and detectives, he said, having watched Foyle's War last night, which is really good. I don't think you have to tick every box in every programme. There's enough programmes and enough channels, because I think the risk about, suddenly this sleepy little village in Buckinghamshire is full of black people and Asian people, is it loses its credibility and authenticity as drama. Therefore, fewer people are going to watch it, therefore it's going to have no impact, therefore it was a waste of time. So I think it's about being authentic and credible.
Okay,
and just on the gender point of view, I think it is worth being clear and proud that in the BBC at all levels, including the executive board level, gender balance throughout the BBC.
Thank you, Tommy.
Trying to say something different to you guys, but I think one example of I think what success looks like on the diversity front and gender in particular is, our biggest Saturday night show is now presented by two women. Usually, you'd kind of always think, male, glamorous female, older male was always the kind of staple that you had on Saturday night TV. Strictly Come Dancing now has two women fronting it. I think that's a really good example of what success looks like when actually, well, why not?
And nobody died, and the viewing figures didn't go down.
No. Yeah. Thank you. Can I ask these three gentlemen over here, can you stand up for me? Yeah, all three of you. Can I ask you how old you are?
I'm 18. I'm also 18. 19.
Okay, so you must be interested in the industry, okay? How do you view diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, in terms of age, in terms of disability? How do you see it? Do you feel that it's something that you can't enter?
I think in the Midlands, we're doing quite a good job in achieving diversity. I think it's also a regional thing, where some regions may have lack of the want to input diversity, but I was also going to talk about the age diversity, where young people, we want to be considered more serious when we speak to the much elderly. I'm not going to use
all right,
that.
I don't mind.
I don't really want to use that word, but it just came to mind.
I didn't hear what you said.
We are. Come on, guys, we are. It's all right, don't be defensive.
I just wanted to talk about what platform is put in place to make sure that we, first of all, that you influence us in, because we are going to enter into your generation, and we, of course, our mindset needs to be into changing, make sure diversity is in place. But what platform is there for us to speak about it?
Come back, think about that panel.
Okay, so actually, Coral and I, my name's Adam, and I'm the director of a network for young people called Project Diverse, and we're basically focused on trying to get young people of all race or gender, sexuality, into getting their stuff out locally, and we're hoping to get bigger. But diversity in itself is a really big topic, but you need to kind of focus on, as the panel has discussed, the idea of creativity and talent before you look at the gender or the race or the sexuality of someone, because you aren't going to go into the market with your race. I'm black, this makes me good at my job. No, it's your talent is what you do. But honestly, diversity in itself is something that grows because of how Britain grows in the way that it's populated. If we have more black people, if you have more brown people, we get more of that into the businesses and stuff. I think the main issue with some of the whitewashing of, say, the BBC or just entertainment industry in general is because of this stigma where everything has to be diverse, and people kind of focus on this need for diversity rather than this need for improvement in whatever you produce. And while this is an issue, it shouldn't be as big an issue as it is to find the right people first. So if you say you have two really good people that are really good at their jobs, and one just happens to be brown or one just happens to be black, fine, it's good. It's good for diversity and it's also good for the business, but it's not something that you should actively seek above, I think, talent.
Okay, thank you.
And my name's Dan. I don't really have a very strong opinion about it.
Okay.
I think it's obvious that a workforce and people on TV should reflect the society.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Can I just ask, are you two going to go into the industry?
Well, I'm currently pursuing the film industry and broadcasting, so I will be in there.
And what are your ambitions?
My ambitions is to start creating a network for entrepreneurship, but also to broadcast content as well.
Okay.
I came here today to mainly look into whether it's a possibility for my network to go into the future to broadcast stuff, if need be, the talent and the creativity that young people have in locally and further. But yeah.
What's your conclusion?
Sorry?
What's your conclusion?
I think it's something I will try to go for, yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, you asked a question about platforms for young people, and that's part of diversity. What exists out there?
Crikey, where do I start? I mean, first of all, you guys are like the millennials. You guys have grown up into a totally different world than us on the panel. I mean, when we were the elderly people, you know, I grew up with 3 channels, 4 channels. That was it, and it was scheduled, and I had to watch things when they were on, and it was called the golden age of broadcasting by many. For me, sorry, it wasn't the golden age is now. It really is. I mean, the amount of platforms out there, online, social media, web channels, IPTV, big centre TV, big broadcasters, it's kind of podcasts. This is all new language to the likes of us. my children are growing up in that world and they're just embracing it. So I think there's lots of opportunities. The other point that I think you raised, sorry I forgot your name. Corral. I just think actually all of this is quite pertinent to this region. And you know, Birmingham, one of its unique selling points is its youth and its diversity. And I think as a city, we're probably not making as much of it as we should. And what I'm really encouraged by, and Joe can probably talk about this, you know, who heads up BBC Birmingham and the academy that's there and the digital innovation unit there, is actually there's a real opportunity to engage in all kinds of initiatives and schemes that will be coming from this, frankly, very unique region. And I think we should be making more of that. It's youth, diversity and digital.
Thank you.
And jobs as well. You know, I think Tommy's right that the Birmingham and Midlands story is young, diverse and digital, and that's what I want the BBC's story in the Midlands to be. It's a new story, it's a different one to the BBC in London and the BBC in Salford. Question about platforms is really interesting. Being an elderly person, I don't know which one of you said the word, and I won't keep going on about it or in any way be bitter and twisted. Oh, I see. I met a 15-year-old lad day before yesterday who has a YouTube channel where he films himself in his bedroom opening packs of football cards and talking about them. Some of his videos get 300, 400,000 hits on YouTube. And I gave him the boring old fart conversation of when I'd been his age, if I wanted to make a video, I had to get a job at the BBC because nobody else could afford a camera. And cameras were the size of this table and only the BBC and ITV owned them. So the opportunity for you, for young people, but also for diverse is a boring word if you say it too often, isn't it? Diverse people is the democratisation of media. You know, there are so many more opportunities. Again, when I was growing up in the Midlands hundreds of years ago, you know, you could, if you wanted to tell, television's about telling stories at its heart. It's whether it's factual stories, drama, informational stories, entertaining stories. If you wanted to tell stories through words and pictures, you had to go and work for a big broadcaster. That's so not the case now. I think that is why I agree with Tommy. It's the golden age of there's a lot of dross out there. At least when there were 4 channels, there wasn't quite as much crap as there is now. But it's a golden age of opportunity for people who want to tell their own stories. And also, conversation we had earlier about talent. You can make your own stories and tell your own stories on your own platforms within your own ambition. And that can get you noticed to get you the experience to then go on to other platforms like broadcasting.
I just want to encourage you because it seems to me that you both, all 3 of you, are bright enough, focused enough to get up and use YouTube, use your smartphone, use social media, use all the networking tools that we have. You know, I'm much younger than these 2, but I only remember a couple of channels when I was coming up also. And I myself use the digital space because if nothing else, it will train you so that you're in a much stronger position if you do go to the majors with your product. So you're not sitting there glass half empty, cup half empty saying, please help me. People, there's a company called SBTV, and that young, do you know about him? Jamal, look what he did. I mean, so that is very inspirational. And then on a film tip for you who is interested in film, Spike Lee said, you know what? His grandmother gave him some kind of a loan a long time ago, and he's now a major player. There's a lot of things that you can do yourself to self-empower, and then when you can meet the industry, you're on stronger terms. That's what I'd say.
Thank you very much. Guys, it's your turn now. This is what I'd like you to do. Get yourselves into groups. So you 5, you 3, you 5, you 5, okay? I met this guy called Jeff Ram, great marketeer. And he does something called a 2-minute challenge. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes, to come up with 3 ideas that's going to make our industry better and more diverse. You've got 2 minutes starting now. I need a spokesperson from each of you. So write your ideas down. You've got a minute left.
With your talent.
It's the talent, isn't it? It's what it should be about. Yeah. It should be about the talent. Because there is the danger, isn't there, of kind of backfiring if you're trying too hard. You need to adjust.
Labels on. Stop doing that. Yeah, I think it's about breaking down barriers, and we're all just people. Instead of going on about everyone's got what, I think let's celebrate what unites us rather than what divides us.
Yeah, it's just making those people who perhaps, somebody who is disabled or something, feeling that they can put themselves
Okay, 30 seconds. Need to be starting to write down 3 ideas. I'm looking for 3 ideas from you that's going to make our industry more diverse and better. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop writing everyone, stop writing. Let's start off with this group here. Yeah, let's start off with this group first. So, if you stand up, sir, you stand up. What's your name? I've got my friend, it's okay.
Sorry, hi, I'm Mike.
Mike, okay, what do you do?
Freelance camera filmmaker.
Okay, so I want 3 ideas from you that's going to make the industry more diverse and better.
Finding people, representative selection of people in the streets, talking about the stuff that unites everybody, the democratising stuff, which is it's food, it's music, it's sharing influences, it's people and opinions in the street that we'd actually share with each other and argue with each other about.
Thank you very much indeed. Round of applause, please. Who's representing here? Is that you? Okay, just remind us of your name again. Look into the camera and look at me. It's all right, I've got the microphone.
My name's Dan. Our first idea was about the education system, and we've got lessons in school about enforcing the importance of diversity, because I think that's where it all starts.
Okay.
Then community projects, which somebody said that we could go to areas of ethnic minorities, or even for white people as well, because I think it's important.
Social class, yeah.
That everyone knows the importance. And then rewarding diversity, so awards or ceremonies.
Thanks ever so much. Thanks, Dan, please. Who's talking here? Ah, okay, stand up, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, you're talking. Come on. We're running out of time here.
Okay. Well, just on the point, actually, what you guys said about commissioners being broader in range and experience. Do you want all 3?
Yeah.
And then we talked about the time slots, so actually really analysing who is watching. So I think one of the really interesting points that came up this morning was the average age of Channel 4 persons 48. And actually I think that changed some of our mindsets, so maybe deep analysis of time slots and the audiences watching. And then we also talked about that shift between getting more people to stop watching Coronation Street and more people watching Panorama might be a really interesting situation for looking at that swinging of audiences to watch different programmes.
Thank you very much indeed, thank you. And then finally, yeah.
He's going to have trouble focusing on us. Right, we had 4 ideas. One was talent speed dating. Something somebody here said, focus more on the talent than per se on particular labels. And another thing was
I like that.
Stop labelling people as well. That was another thing that we thought sometimes can be counterproductive. A change of work culture, that can work against certain groups of people, particularly around gender and age and different things in some work environments. And have faith in the next generation.
Thank you very much indeed. Round of applause, please. So, my final question to the panel before I wrap up, and I don't care who takes it. It's this. Give me an idea, Tommy, Fina, Joe, that's going to change the face of diversity in the industry 10 years from now.
Yeah, I think lots of really good ideas there, lots of things that we're already doing. I think the biggest shift for me would be where diversity is almost not, we're not doing sessions like this in 10 years' time. That would be a real measure of success where it just happens. Now, that it won't miraculously happen because you need to engineer, whether it be schemes, whether it be entry points for new talent, whether it be kind of nurturing, developing that talent, giving them opportunities to work elsewhere. That, I hope, will happen in the next decade. And it really won't be a kind of issue anymore.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd say actively go out and look for writers of different ethnicities, colour, class, creed than the current stock that we've got, and mentor them, do what you need to do to help them translate what they know, the worlds that they inhabit, onto the screen. Not about the commissionings necessarily, that would be great too, but what's being written, I'm talking about drama obviously, because light entertainment I think we're doing quite well at the moment with diversity, but drama is lagging behind, so I need the people who are writing the dramas to be as diverse as possible.
Joe?
I'm going to try and sneak two in here. One is look at what advertisers do. They lead on diversity much more than broadcasters, and that's because they're looking at the bottom line. Diversity is good for business. It's not about being nice to people, tree-hugging, wet liberal crap. It's about being good for business, getting bigger audiences. I think the single biggest thing which we're actively trying to do, and that's why me and Tommy are here, is the more we do out of London, the more we spread across the UK, have commissioners, producers, activities, conversations in as many different places in the UK. That's the game changer for diversity.
Will you please show your appreciation for the panel? Can I thank you all for coming today? Safe journey home. My name's Barnie Choudhury. If you've enjoyed the session, if you haven't, it's George Alagai. Good night.